listener production.
2 police officers have been killed and 1 injured in a shooting.
All at a rural property in Porpunka in Victoria's northeast.
The suspect for this horrific event, who is heavily armed, is still at large. We must find him.
A manhunt is underway for a sovereign citizen gunman who shot dead 2 police officers and seriously injured a third in rural Victoria yesterday, sparking renewed interest in the extreme alternative movement. Sovereign citizens are Australians who reject the authority of our government and believe they're exempt from laws, taxes, and the values of mainstream society. To give you an insight into this world, we're bringing you a bonus episode of The Briefing with an extraordinary Australian dad whose ex-partner became a sovereign citizen and turned his family's life into a living nightmare. This interview was recorded back in 2023 with Tom Tilley and uses voice distortions to protect the identity of a man we're calling John.
We can't use his real name or the name of his ex-partner for legal reasons. They had 2 children together when they split up in 2018, and John says it was a relatively amicable breakup, but then during the pandemic, the ex-partner changed. She was drawn into the sovereign citizen movement. That's a movement the Australian Federal Police has identified as an extremist group that could inspire violence. John says his ex-partner drew the 2 children into the sovereign citizen movement, taking them out of school to attend protests, one which turned violent. The children also stopped showering, and the younger one was standing up in his classroom spouting conspiracy theories. John now has full custody of the children. Police have an apprehended domestic violence order on his ex-partner, but because she doesn't believe the laws apply to her, they live in constant fear that she or some of her sovereign citizen network will come back and take the children away again. Here's John to tell his story. We've altered his voice to protect the identities of the people involved. John, thank you for joining us on The Briefing.
Thank you.
So when you split with your ex-partner, was there any sign that she was a sovereign citizen or that was in any way part of her thinking at the time?
No, there wasn't. She was getting involved in sort of money-making schemes on the internet, and that was sort of what was caused the end of our relationship.
Right, okay. But otherwise, you've described it as a fairly amicable breakup to begin with?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Given it was amicable, did that mean initially no major problems with sharing your 2 children?
Yeah, no problems at all, really. We had 50-50 custody, and we were both moving forward with our own lives as far as I understood it.
Right, and so it was so amicable that you didn't even need court orders for that custody sharing arrangement initially? It was just something that worked organically between you 2?
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. As long as I could see the children 50-50 and remain a part of their life, we split all of the property and money down the middle, and that was it.
When did you start to notice that her thinking and her behaviour was being influenced by the sovereign citizen movement?
I started to lose contact with the children. And when I spoke to the children on the phone, they were very vague about where they were and what they were up to. And then it sort of snowballed into finding out that the kids weren't attending school. They were lying to me about where they were and what they were up to. And I started to use the internet to try and find out exactly where they were and what they were doing, and found out they were in Canberra at the anti-government, anti-vaccine protests. Did
you find out what was going on at those protests and what they were being involved in?
I managed to get hold of some videos. There was, I'd seen my children sort of in between some of the protests, but I managed to get hold of some videos and that my son had recorded. They were involved in the violent protests against the police. They saw people pepper sprayed.
And were your children starting to use some of the language and the thinking of the sovereign citizen movement?
Yeah, so once I got hold of the children's school to discuss, why they hadn't been attending, I found out I'd been left off the enrolment form, so the school hadn't been able to contact me. That's when they said that my youngest was sort of standing up in the classroom and sprouting anti-government ideologies, anti-police, basically anti-anything, the whole system.
Wow. So how did you feel about that?
I was sick in the stomach. I've raised my children to be law-abiding courteous people, citizens.
And do you know how your partner came to join this way of thinking?
I believe that she went to quite a few of the protests and then became involved with sort of a few activists, and these guys were staying at her house and hanging around with my children basically on a daily basis, and the kids were being dragged along to all of the protests. Even at one stage, the children were sleeping in the tent embassy down in Canberra.
So are you saying initially she became part of a anti-vaccine mandate or anti-lockdown movement, and then it moved into the broader sovereign citizen movement? Was there a sort of a pathway?
Yeah, 100%. That's what happened. You know, I've only seen all of this from afar. We weren't in really regular contact at the time, but that's exactly what happened.
Okay, so the protest was towards the end of 2021. How long did it take for you to see your children again and take control of the situation?
Christmas time, and I made clear to their mum that I didn't want them being part of the protest. And when they arrived, I picked them up. They smelt that badly. I did the 50-kilometre drive home with all 4 windows down. They hadn't had a shower in 8 to 10 days. They went back home to their mother at the end of those holidays, and then they came to me in the Easter school holidays, and they all just refused to return to mum's care.
Right.
And that's when he started to show me all of the videos and photos and things that they've been participating in.
So you've got full custody now. You've got this apprehended domestic violence order. Does that mean you've been able to largely resolve the problems created by the sovereign citizen influence on their mother and then your children, or is this still an ongoing problem for you to deal with?
It's ongoing. We've been through 18 months of hell. We've had to disconnect their house phone because we were getting constant. Part of their tactics is they ring up and do welfare checks. People I don't know, they ring up and ask, are my children safe? They send the police to the house saying that I have the children locked in cages and this sort of stuff. So the police conduct welfare checks. I think in total we had close to 27 of those before the police deemed it safe not to, that the children were safe in my care. And I'm talking about banging on the door at 9:30 at night and lighting the house up with spotlights, waking myself and the children up. Because every, different police officers come on at different times, and until every police officer in the area was aware of the situation, we just had to endure that.
And what have you been able to do for your 2 children? Do you feel like you've been able to help them work through the trauma of this whole situation in any way? Have you got much support to do that? How are you nurturing them through this?
So I keep them close. I've got them involved in their sporting clubs again. I've got them safety plans in place with the schools, both of the schools. We've got a safety plan in place here at the house and regular counselling for both of them.
And how damaged by it do you think they are?
Well, my youngest constantly fears being taken, being approached out the front of the house, within 50 metres of the house. People he doesn't know, stalking him, pulling up and passing him notes to say that mum's coming to get him. We've had balloons and packages sent to the house with notes that say exactly the same thing. So he's in constant fear. He doesn't want to be taken. He's happy where he is, and he wants it to stop. For me, the saddest thing of all was last Christmas. He said to me, he actually said it to Santa in front of me, that he didn't want any presents for Christmas. He just wanted this to stop.
Yeah.
And that's pretty heartbreaking.
And so, John, why did you want to tell us this story? What did you want other people to know about the experience that you've been going through?
I feel like I've exhausted all efforts through the court system. I feel like I've pretty much a pain in the backside to police, because I reach out to them every time we have another incident. And I'm hoping that by talking to the media, I can get my story out there and bring this to an end. You see all sorts of terrible stuff happen to women, when families break up and the police don't seem to be able to stop it. And, I want the community to know that happens to men too. The domestic violence is real for us and for our children.
And is it also about the real harm that can come from the sovereign citizen movement? Because I think a lot of people would just write them off as internet lunatics and not necessarily understand how the ideology might translate into real-world actions that hurt other people?
For me, it's more than a movement that goes right back to people in America. It's been around for a long time. It surfaced during COVID, but there is people actively online planning to overthrow the government. This isn't just a different way of thinking. They want to live differently. They want to live lawless, and they don't care who gets in their way. And unfortunately, my family has just become one of the people that's gotten in their way. And when you stand up to them, they just increase their activity in disrupting your life.
That was John's story, and we've cited key legal documents to verify the important elements of his story. And let's just hope the children can heal from this traumatic chapter of their childhoods. And this story just highlights how these fringe internet ideologies can do real-world harm, especially when parents bring their children into it.
That was Tom Tilley there, interviewing an Australian dad whose ex-partner became a sovereign citizen. And thanks for listening to this bonus episode of The Briefing. That's it for now. Before you go, though, we'd love it if you could share this ep with someone else you think might enjoy it. It's a really easy way you can support us and everything we do here on The Briefing. And you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Helen Smith. Catch you next time.